Maybe that's what it was, but that's not what it is today. Today's Sleepy Hollow is not a quiet village, but a bustling town with lots of traffic and modern buildings. The old Dutch settlers have been replaced by a diverse population of urbanite New Yorkers. Still, the Headless Horseman can be found everywhere. Beyond that, there are still many landmarks from the original Washington Irving story that still exist today, particularly landmarks that we see in Ichabod's flight from the Headless Horseman. So I set out to track down those landmarks. Come along with me as I find the sights from Ichabod's flight from the Headless Horseman. So this is ostensibly where it all started. It's now the Landmark condominium, but it is believed that this is where the Van Tassel residence used to be, or at least the people who inspired the Van Tassel family, where they used to live. I'm not sure if this is the building that they lived in or not, and it doesn't seem to make sense to me. This is actually Tarrytown. I guess it makes sense. The book says that there were some people from Sleepy Hollow at the Van Tassel party when the story of the Headless Horseman was told. So technically the Van Tassels did not live in Sleepy Hollow. I guess they were part of Tarrytown. But this is where their home was supposed to have been, and this is where Ichabod's journey would have started. So this is the road going north out of the Van Tassel residence towards Sleepy Hollow and the church. This is where Ichabod would have gone. As you can see, it looks completely different now than it did back then. We're actually in the heart of Tarrytown, which is not a quiet, secluded place anymore. A little further north from the Van Tassel place, you can see that there are high hills here, covered with lots of trees, so that is still reminiscent of the original story. So here is the site of the Major Andre tree that's mentioned a couple times in the book, where a Major Andre was captured. This sign makes it seem like that was a good thing. The people in the story seem to regard it as a tragedy. So I'm not exactly sure what the story is. I've looked it up, but I can't remember what the deal was with Major Andre. His tree is supposed to be around here, so I'm going to try to find that. This is really cool here. This is a little brook, and I'm not sure if it's the same one that's mentioned in the book or not. It is close to the place where Major Andre was captured, and there is a spot that says Ichabod had to cross a little bridge. I don't think this is the bridge. This is just inside Patriots Park, by the way. But he did have to cross a little bridge that was considered to be haunted, and a little brook, and this might well be it. And it's beautiful construction. You can't see the entire thing in frame, but it goes down into another little bridge like that, and the brook continues down. Again, I don't know if this is exactly what Ichabod experienced, the exact brook that he crossed over, but it's pretty close. It would have been something like this. This is the back of the Andre monument. In fact, the monument that you see isn't really a monument to him. He just has the little plaque there to the left. And I do not see a tree that meets the one described in the book. The book describes a white tree that I think had been scarred and was pretty twisted and gnarled, kind of like the tree that Ichabod runs into in the Disney cartoon that he thinks is a ghost. And I don't see any tree that meets that description. turns out I was incorrect on what I just said. This is Major Andre's monument after all. There's a scene of him being taken. Here is a shot of Sleepy Hollow leading down to the Hudson. As you can see, it is a mixture of ancient and modern. And it's no longer the sequestered glen it used to be. There's the Horseman Diner, which is unfortunately closed. And interestingly, Ichabod's path slides downward into the valley towards the Hudson. So this is something neat along the way. This is Phillipsburg Manor, I think, or something to that effect. This is not mentioned in the book at all and does not play a part, but it is something reminiscent to what would have existed in Ichabod's time. It is unfortunately closed today, and I'm not able to walk around inside of it, but the gift shop lady was very nice and allowed me in. She also told me that this land belonged to a very wealthy family who owned almost the entire county, but they sided with the British, and after the Revolutionary War lost it all. So pick your friends wisely. Not part of the Sleepy Hollow lore per se, but really, really cool, and I'm glad I got to see it. So I am continuing on foot from Phillipsburg Manor, or Phillips Town Manor, whatever manor it was, in the spirit of the chase. Even though I could drive it, it's been about a mile. I've been moving the car along the way, trying to walk it, and now there is the church right there. So according to this sign, this is where the bridge used to be. The bridge does not exist anymore. What bridge am I talking about? The bridge. Once you cross that bridge, my friends, the ghost is through, his power ends. So this was the bridge that Ichabod would have crossed in his vain attempt to get away from the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. Here is the stream that it would have crossed. Again, it doesn't exist anymore, and that's too bad. But it would have been here, and it would have crossed this stream leading up to the church. This is the old Dutch burying grounds, sitting next to the old Dutch church. And beyond that, you have Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which Irving helped to found, was not in existence at the time of Ichabod Crane, and is not the cemetery referred to in the book. This here is the cemetery, or the burial grounds referred to in the book. Somewhere in here there is the Headless Horseman. His grave is not marked, but he's believed to be in here somewhere. Also in here are the Van Tassels and two ladies that might possibly be Katrina. And since it has started to storm, I don't want to use my map and destroy it, so I'm just going to have to do a hard target search and go grave by grave looking for Katrina. Here's a little more of the old burial grounds. This, by the way, is where Ichabod would have taken the ladies to read the inscriptions for them. He impressed them in that way. I think it also mentions they did rubbings, I'm not sure. And that he picked grapes off of nearby vines, all for the ladies. Still haven't found Katrina yet, still looking. This is another view of the old Dutch burial ground, connected with the church. And I'm not sure, but I think this is where it stops, or close to where it stops. The graves do not stop, they continue up here, but this again is a newer edition, championed by Irving himself, originally named Tarrytown Cemetery, later in honor of Irving and his wishes renamed Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. That's what he originally wanted it named, and it was ultimately named that. But it is new, it's not the one Ichabod would have traipsed through with the girls, reading the inscriptions and collecting the grapes. This is a fabrication of the famous bridge. It is not the original bridge. That sadly does not exist anymore, but it is a bridge over the brook close to the church, and it's pretty similar to what Ichabod would have crossed. I know you're expecting a covered bridge. That is because of the Disney cartoon. We don't know that it was a covered bridge. It's not specified as such in the book. We don't know that it wasn't either. I guess it could have been, but this is the recreation of the bridge. Here is the brook beyond the bridge. A little bit of rapids, a little bit of sound coming out of it, really neat. Here is the railing of the bridge, and as you can see, it is made of rough-hewn wood. They did not bark it or process it, it's just nailed up there. But then we have nice processed planks below. And then on the other side, the brook continues until it goes past the church and the burial ground. Unfortunately, I still have not found Katrina, either of them, but I believe that they are one of these. This is the right area. I cannot read these gravestones because the weathering and so forth are the only ones in the area that I can't really read. So I think that one of these, if not both of these, two of these, is Katrina. And unfortunately, that's the closest I'm going to come to her today. That is the Sleepy Hollow Tarryton Lighthouse, which is not featured in the story, and that is the Tappan Zee Bridge, they call it. Bridge across the Hudson River, which the settlers called the Tappan Zee, and I've gone over it a couple of times. It is not in the story either. What is in the story is the Hudson River, and the thing about the Hudson River is it's way larger than what I imagined as I was reading. I understand now why the sailors shortened their sails and pleaded for help, divine help, as they went across this river. Now last night it was almost as described in the book. The sun was setting and it was orange as the setting sun gave it color, and a sailboat was sailing across it. Doesn't look like that today with the rain falling, but you still can see how large this river was, and Ichabod would have seen it from above. There is a hill behind me where the city is, the town is, and it slopes up, and that's how he would have seen it as he was riding out to the Van Tassel farm. Here is another view of the Hudson. You can see the lighthouse in the distance. There's the mighty river, and there's just a part of the Tappan Zee Bridge, and then here's what looks to be like modern upscale riverside housing. So Sleepy Hollow is a mixture of the new and the old. So here he is. Here is my friend that I have never met, but I've spent lots of hours with his work and have come to love him, and I'm happy to at last get to meet him and see him, and I hope he's happy to get to meet and see me. So the rain has not made it easy, but I have done it nonetheless. I have visited as many of the landmarks from the legend of Sleepy Hollow as I think it is possible to visit, to identify with any degree of certainty, and then ended right here with the author, Washington Irving himself, who related the story to us, perhaps taking it from older legends and folk tales he had learned from the Dutch settlers who originally resided in this area. It has not been easy, as I said before, with the rain and so forth, but it has been lots of fun. I know that I will continue to read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow many times a year, as I have done for the past several years, and I know that my reading of it will be richer now that I have seen it, that I have seen the places where it came from.